Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to the channel. I'm Druzy, and this is the start of an exciting journey. This is the start of my attempt to beat Pokemon Yellow version using nothing but the move Metronome. Before I get into too much detail here, let's first start by explaining what Metronome does. This move is kind of a gimmick move that randomly selects from almost any move in the game and uses that move. This can create really interesting outcomes, but also means that being strategic with our move choice is absolutely impossible. I'm pretty sure the only move Metronome can't select is Metronome, so we literally could see anything during this run. Now that we've covered a bit on how Metronome works, we need to talk about the Pokemon who can actually use Metronome. Well, here we have good news and bad news. The good news is that there are 28 Pokemon that can learn Metronome. These are basically any Pokemon that are bipedal and have hands and fingers, which kind of makes sense when you think about it. If you ever watched the anime, when Clefairy uses the move, it moves its fingers back and forth like a metronome when using the move. So, we will have some options available to us in this run. But here comes the bad news. There are only 3 Pokemon that learn Metronome by level up. Those Pokemon are Clefairy, Clefable, and Mew. And since we don't use glitches and exploits during these challenge runs, Mew isn't an option for us either. So we get to use Clefairy or Clefable exclusively in this run, with the exception of one Pokemon, because there is a single TM for Metronome available in the game. So with that bit of introduction out of the way, let's see how this goes! After a lovely title sequence first. Remember to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be sure you can see all the new videos when they come out. As for this run, it will probably be an interesting one, and I can honestly say that I have no idea what's in store because every attack is literally a random chance. Since we have to use Metronome this whole run, we have to start with Clefable because it's the only Gen 1 Pokemon that will start with Metronome as part of the starting moveset. Using the Universal Pokemon Randomizer, we can make this happen pretty easily to make sure we can actually use Metronome for the full run. But this means we only have one move available to us for quite some time because Clefairy doesn't learn Metronome until level 31. That means we need to wait until Mount Moon to catch at least 4 Clefairies, and then we're going to have to rely on Switch Train to get them to level 31 before we can actually use them. Oh, and I did mention that Metronome only has a base of 10 PP, so especially in the early game, we're going to have a tough time against trainers with more than 1 or 2 Pokemon. This doesn't apply to our rival in the lab battle though, as he only has a single Eevee, and with our trusty Clefairy named Kagome added to the team, we're ready to do battle with our rival Naraku for the first time. So the first thing we're going to do is swap Metronome to the first position, that's just to save some time. Our first Metronome of the run gets us Rock Throw, which hits, which is pretty cool because it is only 60% accurate. We're now in a speed tie, and Eevee hits us with another tackle as we go for Mist. Guess this at least lets us avoid defense drops from Tail Whip. We then go into Skull Bash, which is amazing as it is a stab move for Clefable as we take our Eevee down to red health. It hits us again and we're down to 10 health, but soft boiled. Perfect, we're back to almost full health again. Now we use Metronome one more time, we get a Mega Drain, and that finishes off the Eevee. That was pretty nice. That's our first win and we leveled up in the process. That battle is a great example of what we have to look forward to for the rest of this run. It's random, and the momentum of each battle can swing wildly depending on RNG results. Normally, this is where we talk about learn sets for the challenge, but this really doesn't matter here. The only Pokemon who can learn this move by level up are Mew and Clefairy. We can't get Mew, and like I've already said, Clefairy only gets this at level 31. So we're stuck with those 2 Pokemon, except for those that can learn it via TM, but that TM comes on Cinnabar Island, so we're gonna have to wait quite a bit for that anyway. And just to cover all of our bases, I also wanted to point out that the only change to the normal Pokemon Yellow game is switching the starter to Clefable. Everything else is still the exact same as before, including things like the lovely Gen 1 AI and all the glitches that come with this amazing game. So as we go about the early game story, let's talk about the run some more. Like I've said many times, we're only going to be using Metronome. If we can't use Metronome, we lose. If we accidentally use a move that isn't Metronome, we lose and I'll reset. And obviously, If all of our Pokemon faint during battle, we also lose, just like any normal game of Pokemon. Because I want to make things as hard on myself as possible, we're going to force our rival to go with what I consider his strongest team, and that's the team with Jolteon as the final evolution. I know this is always debatable, and if you have a strong opinion on this, please drop a comment below in the video and I'll take it into consideration for any future challenge runs. Anyway, to make our rival evolve into Jolteon, we need to defeat him in the Rival 1A battle, and this is a great example of the frustrating parts of the Metronome only challenge. We get a couple of early damaging moves, including a Headbutt and a Thunder Shock, and even get Poison Powder to land, but then we also got Toxic and Sleep Powder to the already status Spearow, and combining that with some poor crit luck, and we end up with our first loss of the challenge. So, on the rematch, we're going to use the exact same strategy of Metronome. This time we don't get a crit, but we do get an Ice Punch to take the Spearow to orange right away. Our second Metronome goes for a useless growth, but we're gonna do okay as a Dragon Rage finishes off Spearow. That's pretty good, and now we're in a much different place heading into Eevee. We get Metronome, we go for Nightshade, which is pretty good, followed by a Metronome Tackle, which crits. Then we get hit by Sand Attack, adding more randomness to the battle, but Kagome comes through clutch and hits Horn Attack for the KO and gets us the win. As our rival rightly points out, we did kind of luck out there, and that battle went very differently from our previous attempt, and that's almost entirely due to the Metronome luck. It's still early game, and I can see how this is a very interesting challenge since you can win or lose battles based solely on getting good or bad RNG outcomes. There are a few things unrelated to Metronome that you may have noticed in that battle as well. One thing we do have going for us is Clefairy and Clefable fall into the fast level up group of Pokemon. This means it will take less experience to level up, meaning that our grinding we'll be doing at some point, like right now, will at least be a little bit less time consuming. This shows up very apparently when we leveled up 2 times in that last rival battle. This will hopefully offset some of the extra time it will take with only being able to use Metronome throughout the run. The other thing that we do have going for us is that we're doing pretty good damage to our rival's team and all these other Pokemon, even though we're at a fairly low level, and that's because Clefable has some pretty decent base stats overall. It's number 61 of 151 in terms of base stat totals, so that will help us out quite a bit. Now that we've done a little bit of training, let's see how we stack up against the first Brock battle. While I say the first Brock battle, I mean there really isn't a second Brock battle. This is more of a way to hint at the fact that this is the first attempt at Brock and it's gonna go pretty poorly. For one thing, Brock has 5 full heals for each of his Pokemon, so things like Hypnosis and Poison moves, which would normally be a good thing for us, are practically useless, and we seem to be getting a lot of these status moves. Another problem with Brock is that his Geodude is only level 10 yellow version. While this might seem like it's a good thing because hey, it's 2 levels lower than red and blue, it means that this thing will only ever use Tackle on us and it's doing 5 damage per hit. So that is extremely annoying too, and it means that we're going to need to deal with this Geodude rather quickly. And remember, we only have 10 Metronome in total. So that means we have to deal with it even more quickly because if we don't, we run out of Metronome PP like we did there, which causes a reset. We were only able to do about 25% of Geodude's health and damage there before we lost, and remember, that's because of the rules. We have to use only Metronome. We must reset if we can't actually use Metronome, but since this is literally RNG based, let's try again right away, shall we? Things look to be a bit better on this attempt as we start with a Fire Blast, but it missed. Then we went String Shot, Minimize, not bad, and then we go into Double Edge and Slash to take Geodude under half health. None of this matters though because Kagome busts out a Horn Drill for a 1-hit KO that's apparently not very effective. Thanks Gen 1 logic. Anyway, we've now made it to Onix and all we have to do is take out this Rock Snake, but if it uses Bide like it does here, we need to get some luck, and though we take it to red health, it unleashes energy and we've done so much damage it ends up being a KO on us as well. Okay, so this is not the next attempt, but it's definitely an attempt. So this time we hit a barrier right off the start, so we do survive a little bit better against the Geodude, but we're not hitting any attacks. A Razor Leaf, which would have been a one-shot, would have taken it out. But Then we keep on moving forward. We're doing okay damage with a couple Hyper Fangs. We get a Slash to bring it under half health. And then we get a Clamp that misses. Again, would have taken it out in one shot. And we get a Water Gun when we only have 2 PP left. So we're in a one shot only. And we get a Mega Drain, which KOs the Onyx in a one shot. And we end up getting full health back. So it looks like we didn't take any damage from the Brock battle. That's such a weird thing from these Metronome runs. Literally no additional training between those 3. We lost 2, won 1, and we got our first badge. Just because we have one badge down doesn't mean things are going to get much easier for us though. Now we have to face a new challenge, and that is trainers with more than 2 Pokemon. This starts right away with the mandatory Bug Catcher, who has a team of 2 Caterpies and a Weedle. Normally, this trainer isn't even worth discussing. I mean, really, it's 2 Caterpies and a Weedle. How hard can it be? Well, when you're using a Metronome team, the answer is pretty hard. First Caterpie eventually goes down to a Fire Punch, and then we're able to take down the second Weedle, eventually using Cut, and then we get another Fire Punch to finish it off. However, the third Caterpie stalls us out, and we miss a Mega Punch, which might have been enough. And then we end up running out of power points. So yeah, we have to reset. And this is where I'm going to end up getting very, very sad. You may have noticed that I didn't save after beating Brock. In my excitement, I simply moved forward with the journey, and now my hubris will force me to once again battle the Rock-type Pokemon in the first gym. This could be a major setback and a huge time waster, so let's hope for good luck, and we get just that. Minimize into Absorb into a Fire Blast for a quick KO on the Geodude. Perfect. Now we're back to Onyx, and we start with a Light Screen, which isn't going to be useful. Then we get a Leer, which could help, and then we get a Comet Punch, which does basically nothing. Come on, Kagome, we need something good, and we get it with Aurora Beam, down to red health. And we just need one more hit, and we get that with Payday, and that is a win. That was actually the first try after the reset, so I'm glad it went so quickly. And while it isn't shown here, I did make sure to save as soon as I healed at the Pokemon Center. I do learn from my mistakes, sometimes anyways. On the rematch, we do get our revenge with the Bug Catcher, but he is a perfect example of why I cannot wait to add more members to my team. If we had a team of 6 Metronome users, Pokemon number becomes at least a little bit less scary, and will greatly reduce the number of times I need to return to heal at a Pokemon Center. I did spoil the ending to this fight already, but we will get the win thanks to a Pin Missile taking the second Caterpie to red health before we get a Fly, and that's going to be enough to finish the job. For the record, multi-turn attacks still only take a single PP with Metronome, just like the moves would if they were on any other Pokemon. We've used up almost all our PP though, so we have to head back and heal. This process of completing a battle and then coming back to heal is basically all we do until we finally make it to Mount Moon. If you're a repeat viewer of the channel, you know what we need to do now. That's right, it's time to buy a fish. And not just any fish, we're going to buy the best fish. This is an amazing fish and an amazing deal. 500 Pokédollars? Yes, please. I know that Magikarp can't learn Metronome and neither can Gyarados, but we can't pass up this offer. And then we're going to immediately put it into someone's PC because that's what you do with fish. Everyone knows that. So with our journey at the foot of Mount Moon, I'm going to go ahead and call it a wrap on this episode of the Metronome Only Challenge. Normally, I would try to do all the challenge in a single video, but after I started editing this, I didn't think that really did this challenge justice. So, for the first time on this channel, we're going to have a series of videos to cover the single challenge. Hopefully, this means some of the videos will be a bit shorter in length, just like this one, and it gives everyone a bit of a different way to experience the content. On the next episode, we'll make our way into the mysterious Mount Moon, where we can finally start the hunt for more Clefairy to join our team. It should be a good one, so remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications by ringing the bell to be notified when it comes out. Also, while you're at it, drop a comment below. Maybe you can tell me how my strategy for using Metronome was all wrong, or how much you love the best fish bit. Comments help make the YouTube algorithm happier, and a happy algorithm is always great. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I look forward to bringing you the full series. Until then though, I'm Druzy, and I hope to see you all again soon.